3 tournaments, 1 player, and a rules controversy the PGA Tour never fully explained. Wyndham Clark's 2023 U.S. Open win at LACC felt like the perfect underdog story. Emotional, deserved, unforgettable. But how does a clean moment turn into a years-long cover-up? An insider just answered that question, and the answer isn't small. According to this source, what started as a single questionable moment on the green wasn't isolated at all. It was a pattern, repeated across multiple events, and quietly ignored by the people whose job was to catch it. Think about that for a second. If one incident gets missed, that's human error. If the same behavior shows up again at Bay Hill, again at Quail Hollow, and again on golf's biggest stage at Shinnecock, that's not an accident anymore. That's a system that chose to look away. So why would the tour protect its own major champion instead of exposing him? Was it the sponsors, the optics, or something even simpler, that admitting the truth would mean admitting they failed to act the first time? We're about to walk through every incident in order, with the footage that sparked this whole insider claim in the first place. Before we get there, though, we want to know what you think. Do you believe Wyndham Clark got special treatment from the tour? Drop your take in the comments and hit subscribe so you don't miss where this story goes next. New tournament, new field, same golfer trying to prove that Los Angeles wasn't a fluke. That's when Bay Hill happened. This time, it wasn't a subtle grounding of the club. It was a drop, a simple, routine drop that should have taken 10 seconds and drawn zero attention, except Clark's ball landed noticeably closer to the hole than the rules allow for a proper relief. Not by inches that anyone could argue over camera angles. By a margin, golf broadcasters usually flag within seconds. This time, they didn't stay quiet. A rules official was called in. Viewers at home watched the broadcast freeze, rewind, and slow down the exact moment of the drop. For a few tense minutes, it looked like Clark might actually face a penalty on live television. Then, the ruling came back. The scorecard didn't blink. Neither did the tour, but something had changed. This wasn't a story fans had to dig up themselves anymore. It was on the broadcast. It was in real time. And it was the second time in less than a year that Wyndham Clark had been standing at the center of a rules conversation nobody wanted to have. But Bay Hill did something the Los Angeles controversy never could. It put the entire golf world in the front row. Millions of viewers watched the ruling unfold in real time. And for the first time, people started asking whether this was becoming more than just bad luck. Players in the field noticed too. A few pulled reporters aside after their rounds, choosing their words carefully, but the message was clear. They'd seen it. They just hadn't said it publicly, not yet. Fans thought they'd seen the worst of it. They hadn't even seen the middle of it yet. What happened next, at a major everyone remembers for a completely different reason, would be impossible to explain away. The clip spread fast. Within an hour, it wasn't just golf accounts sharing it. Casual sports fans who'd never watched a full round in their life were suddenly debating grounding rules in the comments section. That's how obvious it looked. Officials reviewed the footage, and once again, the ruling came back the same way it always did. The rules book stayed closed, so did everyone's mouth. But this time, the silence didn't sit well with anyone. Broadcasters, who normally stay neutral, started asking pointed questions on air. Golf analysts who'd spent decades protecting the sport's image found themselves in an uncomfortable position, defending a non-call they couldn't fully explain. Fans wanted answers. Instead, they got a shrug and a scorecard. Clark finished the round strong. The moment faded from the headlines within a week, and the tour moved on, like it always did, except this time something had shifted behind the scenes. A fellow player, someone who'd shared a group with Clark before, started talking. Not publicly, not yet, but quietly to people who mattered, because 2 incidents at LACC and Bay Hill were about to become 3, and what happened next wouldn't just raise questions, it would force the tour to answer them. The ball wasn't actually plugged the way it should have been. Witnesses standing near the ropes said it barely left a mark, just enough of an indent to argue the case, not nearly enough to justify what came next. Clark's caddy called it in. A rules official jogged over, and within seconds, before a real inspection could even take place, the ruling was given. Embedded ball, free drop. Clark lifted the ball, cleaned it, and placed it in a spot that gave him a clean, perfect lie. No rough interference, no punishing angle, just a fresh start on a hole where, moments earlier, he should have been fighting his way out of trouble. Broadcast cameras zoomed in immediately. The slow-motion replay told a different story than the one the officials had accepted. The indentation looked shallow. Some analysts on the call flat out said it didn't look embedded at all, more like a ball that had simply landed and stopped. Fellow competitors in his group exchanged a look. One player, visibly frustrated, didn't say anything to reporters that day, but his body language said everything. This wasn't the first time he'd watched a ruling fall in Clark's favor at the exact moment it mattered most. Clark went on to play that hole with a lie most golfers in the field would have killed for. He built on it. He extended his lead. And once again, the lead grew instead of shrinking. What made this controversy different wasn't the ruling itself. It was what started happening afterward. For the first time, people inside professional golf began connecting all of these moments together. They brought up Bay Hill from the year before, too. Suddenly, 3 separate moments that had each been dismissed on their own were being lined up side by side, and the pattern was impossible to ignore. This wasn't a one-time judgment call anymore. This was starting to look like a habit the tour kept choosing not to see. Then came the moment nobody saw coming. A veteran caddy, someone who had worked inside the ropes for over a decade, decided he wasn't staying quiet anymore. What he was about to say publicly would change how the entire golf world watched Wyndham Clark. The word spread fast. Golf media picked up the story within hours. What had been fan speculation for 2 years suddenly had a credible voice behind it. Someone who had actually stood on those fairways and watched it happen in person. The tour now faced a question it could no longer dodge. If insiders inside the ropes were saying this out loud, how many more people already knew and said nothing? Henley never said it was a conspiracy. He just said what he saw and let the footage do the rest. So here's what we want to know. Do you believe Wyndham Clark has been getting away with this for years, or is this just the tour failing to enforce its own rules? Tell us your honest take in the comments below, and make sure you're subscribed, because what this insider revealed next is even harder to defend. Brent Henley has spent years inside professional golf. As a PGA Tour caddy, he's seen countless rulings, controversial moments, and the fine line players walk when dealing with the rules. He understands how seriously integrity is taken in golf, which is exactly why what he said next caught so many people off guard. Following months of mounting controversy around Wyndham Clark, Henley decided to speak publicly. He wasn't a fan watching from home or a social media personality looking for attention. He's someone who works inside the game and understands its standards better than most. He posted the footage himself, practice swing after practice swing, and said flatly, "I think Wyndham Clark cheats here." No caveat, no maybe. Coming from a working PGA Tour caddy, not a fan account, that single sentence did more to legitimize the pattern than 3 years of viral clips combined. That accusation carried weight because it came from someone who knows exactly how the rules are applied on the PGA Tour. Henley wasn't arguing over a minor technicality. In his view, the footage raised serious questions about whether Clark had crossed a line that golfers are expected to respect. For many fans, this was the moment the narrative began to shift. What had once been viewed as another controversial ruling was now being discussed as something far more serious. And as the debate surrounding Wyndham Clark continued to grow, golf's biggest stage was about to bring the controversy back into focus at Shinnecock Hills. By now, fans weren't watching Wyndham Clark to see whether he would win. They were watching to see whether another controversy would follow him onto the golf course. Fair or unfair, every single move he made was now being viewed through a completely different lens. Wyndham Clark arrived at the 2026 U.S. Open with plenty to prove. He was playing well and had once again put himself in contention. But this time, the conversation surrounding him was different. After months of controversy and criticism, people weren't just watching his scorecard. They were watching everything he did. Then came the moment that reignited the debate. After finding himself in thick rough on an early hole, Clark faced an extremely difficult lie. The ball was sitting down in deep grass, making the next shot far from ideal. Before addressing the ball, Clark took multiple practice swings immediately beside it. With each swing, the grass around the lie appeared to become more flattened. potentially making the shot easier to play. Television cameras captured the entire sequence, and within moments, fans began reacting. What started as murmurs quickly turned into loud boos echoing across the course. Spectators openly voiced their frustration as social media lit up with clips of the incident. The atmosphere became so tense that security reportedly had to intervene with disruptive fans in the crowd. Yet, despite the controversy unfolding in front of thousands of spectators, he walked to the next tee like the boos hadn't happened at all. By that point, this was no longer just a rules debate. It had become one of the biggest talking points of Wyndham Clark's career. By this point, the debate surrounding Wyndham Clark had become impossible to ignore. What was once dismissed as isolated incidents was now being viewed by many fans and critics as a recurring pattern. The questions weren't going away, and neither were the controversies. So, what's the truth? Is Wyndham Clark a cheater, or is he simply a player who pushes the rules as far as they'll go without crossing an official line? That's what makes this story so complicated. No one can deny Clark's talent. He's a major champion for a reason. He has proven time and time again that he possesses the skill to compete with the very best golfers in the world. He doesn't need controversy to become one of the game's great players. Yet, critics argue that the biggest secret hidden in plain sight isn't one massive cheating scandal. It's the repeated appearance of small, controversial moments that seem to follow him from tournament to tournament. A questionable ruling here, a favorable drop there, practice swings that spark debate. Individually, none of them may be enough to prove wrongdoing. Together, however, they've created a narrative that refuses to disappear. The PGA Tour has cleared him every single time. Officials have never accused him of intentionally breaking the rules, but that hasn't stopped fans, media personalities, and even insiders like Brent Henley from asking difficult questions. And that's why comparisons to Patrick Reed continue to surface. Both players have faced accusations of pushing the boundaries of the rulebook. Both have been cleared by officials. Yet, public opinion often tells a very different story. Whether Wyndham Clark is misunderstood or simply playing closer to the edge than most golfers are comfortable with remains a debate that golf fans aren't likely to stop having anytime soon. Patrick Reed embraced the criticism that followed him throughout his career. Wyndham Clark has largely remained silent and allowed his golf to do the talking. But silence doesn't always make the questions disappear. What has changed over the last few years is the conversation surrounding his name. Every controversial ruling, every favorable decision, and every incident caught on camera has added another layer to the debate. Fair or unfair, many fans no longer watch Wyndham Clark without wondering whether they're about to witness another controversial moment. And perhaps that's the biggest consequence of all. The rulebook may have cleared him every single time, but public opinion is far more difficult to win back. So what is the final verdict? Wyndham Clark remains one of the most talented golfers on the PGA Tour. Nothing about these controversies changes what he's accomplished as a player, or the fact that he earned his place among the game's elite. But controversy has a way of following great athletes, especially when difficult questions continue to go unanswered. The biggest secret wasn't a hidden document or a single shocking act of cheating. According to critics and insiders like Brent Henley, it was something far more complicated. A recurring pattern of controversial moments that many believe should have received greater scrutiny. The PGA Tour has never penalized Wyndham Clark for intentional cheating, yet the debate surrounding his conduct has only grown louder with time. Whether he's an unfairly criticized major champion or a player who consistently pushes the boundaries of the rules is a question golf fans will continue debating for years to come. One thing, however, is undeniable. Wyndham Clark will never be viewed in quite the same way again, because in professional golf, talent alone isn't what builds a legacy. Trust does. Fans can forgive mistakes. They can forgive bad rounds and even controversial moments. What they struggle to forgive is the feeling that different players are being held to different standards. That's why this debate refuses to go away. Every time Wyndham Clark steps onto the first tee now, he's carrying more than just his golf bag. He's carrying the questions, the criticism, and the expectations that come with every ruling that goes his way, fair or unfair. That's become part of his story. And until those questions are put to rest, every victory will come with scrutiny, and every controversial moment will be viewed through the same lens. The trophies may continue to pile up, but public perception is much harder to change. In golf, reputations are built over decades and can be altered in a single moment. For Wyndham Clark, the debate surrounding his name may ultimately become as memorable as the championships themselves. So here's the real question. If this happened to a player from your home course, would you call it gamesmanship or cheating? Drop your city and your honest take in the comments and subscribe, because the next controversy is already brewing.